YouTube, how you doing? It's Ian here from Ian here and there. Right, so your video for tonight. Let me just stop these running just for a moment. I've been doing things. Michael Loofs texted me and said, what type of transformer can you run DC and DCC together with? Now then, I'm going to quickly show you the setup I've got. I know I probably showed you this before, but I think this is important. And I'm going to quickly run through what transformers you can get that you can run both on and how it works to what I can, understand. Right, so down here, I've got an Amott & Morgan 2000 transformer, double track one. And I've got a Hornby Select DCC transformer there. Controller there, I should say. Now then, if I want to run DCC and DC, you can't run them on the same track because you can either have one or the other. You can't run them both on the same track. That's for starters. But I've looked into this. I went down to the local model shop and asked about this to double check, because when I first went into DCC, I didn't know a thing about it. I, never used it in my life, so I wanted to double check. I've got trains that are sentimental value because they're what my late parents bought me as a child. So I didn't want to do anything that was going to damage my trains, of course. So I went down to the local model shop and I said, look, I've been told the Hornby Select controller, you can run DC and DCC. You cannot run, according to the model shop, and I've tested this out and I'm going to show you on this video, you cannot run DCC and DC together on a Hornby Select controller. I'm going to run, because I've been running trains today, so I've got all my wiring into, I'm running DC today. But if I quickly take, I tell you what, let me take the other one out. It's alright, the light off that camera is quite bright. Right, so I'm trying to get so my eyes function properly. I'm going to put it down to the age. Okay. Right, so this is how your track would be normally wired up if you was running DCC. I don't know whether you can hear this. I've got a DC locomotive on my layout at the moment. You can run them like I'm doing here, but I've got a humming coming from my locomotive. I don't like that humming. It's like a, let me just get rid of that. It's like it's not silent when it's still. When I've got the track so the train stopped, there's like a buzzing. I don't like that, because what you've got to think is, if you've got locomotives and trains that your mum and dad bought you and they've passed away, you can't replace them. And this is what I've got here with this DMU that I've got on tonight. This is what my late parents bought me. So I'm not prepared to have my locomotive sat there buzzing, because it could be doing damage to it. Okay. Now, like I said, you can run it. This is on the DCC controller, as you can see, but when the train stops, it does that buzzing. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera. That alone would worry me out of my mind. Surely, because what you've got to remember is DCC, which is digital, is permanent power to the track. That's how it works, DCC. I haven't got no carriages with lights in that I can grab hold of quick. But normally, DCC keeps a constant current to the track. Well, if you, even though I've got it on the setting that I was told that you could run DC on, it's still doing that noise, and I don't like that. That's damaging that loco as far as I'm concerned, and it's not replaceable. I can buy 50 of these trains and they're still not what my parents bought me. So the OMBI Select controller, you cannot do it with as far as I'm concerned, and I had that confirmed by the model shop. Number one. Number two is, I was told, I don't know how true this is, by the model shop. He's a very good bloke down there, so I'm 99.9% sure he's on the ball. You can run a DC locomotive on a DC transformer, but the make has got to be Bachmann. They're apparently one of the few that you can. But before you go rushing out and paying lots of money on these Bachmann controllers, and only called it Batman, before you go running out paying hundreds of pounds on Bachmann controllers, check with your model shop. The version you're going to buy on the Bachmann controller, it can do both. This one can't. I've been told the OMBI Elite, that one can run DC as well as DCC, but we can't run DC and DCC on the same track. It can't be done. Because surely there's a setting that you got to put these transformers on to run DC. I was told that this will run it, which it won't, as long as it's 00 in the display. And as you can see, that's what it's on. That, as far as I'm concerned, will not run DC and DCC. So, if I wanted to run a DC locomotive on track 2, because I'm using track 1 as a DC locomotive, an analog system one, surely I would have to put in the appropriate code for that track 2 locomotive. Well, if you've got both your tracks wired into this transformer through one connection like that, surely you're going to take it off the analog setting. This is what I would worry about. So, if we want to, what I would do personally, unless I suddenly get shown differently, which is not going to be likely, what I would do is I would, if I wanted to run DC on one track and then DCC on the other track, I would have, you don't need an expensive DCC transformer, you know, controller. But I would go and buy yourself a cheap OMBI Select controller. I would wire the single track into the DCC transformer like this, and I would have, no, excuse me, your second track for your DC into your DC transformer. You cannot go wrong if you do that. For instance, I'm just going to get these off. I'm going to really be quick and get these off. Okay? Because I want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm on about. Because I'm not having people go and spend lots of money on these transformers and then damage their pride and joy trains. I would be absolutely gutted if that happened. Now then, any DCC locomotive will do, it don't matter. I'm sure that's a DCC if I remember right. Right. So, if I put the code in for that, which I think you'll find is that. Yep, they are, look. You can run DCC on the single track, and then on track 2 you can run DC. The blue locomotive is DC, and the Freightliner, which is coming round here in the Freightliner grey, is DCC. Okay, that is the way I would do it personally. I would have separate controllers. Now then, another problem I've found while I'm thinking about it, when you're out and about looking at these nice lovely layouts and they're all, you know, working fantastic, I wanted a system for my layout because I run DCC and DC, which a lot of you guys out there want to do, because you know you've got old locos that you don't want to be messing about with. I've got the old analog system with the lever, as you've seen in other videos, but the only problem I've got, I've done this on purpose to show you, if I start the sound up on my DCC locomotive, there we are, just to show you. If this is the major problem with DCC as far as I'm concerned. You cannot run successfully the analog system for the points and everything with a DCC controller, because this is what happens. Look at the numbers. See that? It shorts it all out. And as you can see, well, you can hear as well as see, my sound has been switched off now on my locomotive. So what you want to do, if you want to run analog point motors with a lever system like I'm doing, you're going to have the DC transformer for the points and use your DCC transformer just for the track. Now then, I'm not bothered personally about if that sound locomotive blew up tomorrow, it wouldn't make any difference to me. I'll just go and buy another one. Same with my transformer, what I'm getting wrapped around the wiring with. My DCC transformer, if this blew up tomorrow, I'll just go and buy a new one. But not a lot of people can just go out and buy new things. So, you've seen what happens. It shorts the transformer out, and that's because it's not meant to run analog points with levers like I've got. If you want to go and run points on the DCC system, you have to have the DCC system throughout. If you want to run your points and that via that, you don't have to have that. You don't have to have your lever switch. It's all done via the buttons on here. But the only problem is, when you run your DC trains, as far as I'm aware, you won't be able to, because if you're running it on a separate transformer, DC transformer, and you haven't got your DCC transformer plugged in, you can't change your points, can you, with the motors? Because unless you've got that plugged in, you can't do it. And there's a circuit board there is that you plug your points into, and the power from the transformer goes into it, and it all works everything apparently. But I wanted to run the analog system as well as the DCC, the digital system. So what I've done, I've got my lever system, and I'm going to plug my lever system Where it's plugged into my DCC transformer at the moment, I'm going to plug that into my DC transformer because it'll work, because it's the analog system. But unfortunately, you can't plug the points like I've got it into the DCC transformer and it not short out, because it's a different system. Because as soon as I do that, as you can see, it knackers the lot up, it turns the lot off. I'm worried because that could be shorting that out, and it could pack up eventually, keep doing that. So what I would suggest you do is you plug your DC analog system points into a DC transformer, and I would just, or you can plug your lights in, you know, your houses and what have you into the DCC one if you want to. But I would think seriously about just using the track for the DCC and stick everything else on the DC transformer, unless you want to go and buy the circuit boards. I don't know, I've never seen one, to be honest, so I can't really say. They're like a little circuit board, to what I've been told, and I presume it's a capacitor or something, and it pumps the power to the points. So if you want to run the analog system as well as DCC, I would use a DCC transformer and a DC transformer for the other track. That way then you'll be okay. If you, as I said, you can get these transformers that will do DC and DCC, but be very, very careful, because I've never seen one. The Ombi Elite, as I said, is supposed to be able to do it. But my question is, like I said earlier, is as soon as you pump that new code in for your digital engine, what happens to that one? Because you're going to take it off the setting for the analog, ain't ya? You think about it. Because the setting for this is supposed to be 0, 0, like that. That's what you're probably going to have on the Ombi Elite, is 0, 0 for the analog system. But as soon as I pump in engine number 3, it's come off the analog setting, ain't it? So that engine, surely, the DC locomotive, is going to go live, and you're going to be burning that motor out like we were saying about earlier on. And if you, as I said, if your late parents have bought it, you don't want to be buggering it up. You don't. So to be absolutely safe, what I've done is I've got the DC track purely on the DC transformer, and I've got the analog track purely on the analog system there. In fact, you can see, I'll show you while I'm doing it. Now, I'm taking my points out now. I've got a mountain of wires every direction. Let me get rid of some of these wires. There's my transformer. Sling that on there in a minute. And I'm going to wire, while I've got you guys watching, I'm going to wire these back into my... So I've had it running on the DC transformer all day. I've only just took them out so you could see. I'm running that back straight into there. And now I can operate my points without too much trouble. And I've done that wrong. But you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. It's alright. When you've had the light off the camera, it sends your eyes weird. Alright, let's try that. That's better. I can control my analog points now and it not do anything, because I've took them now out of my DCC transformer. So the ultimate question, the answer to the ultimate question, can you run DCC and DC? Yes, you can, but not off one controller. As I said, it's worrying because I don't want to give you guys false advice. I want the best advice. And the best advice I can give you, if you want to run DC and DCC like I'm doing tonight, because remember I've got my DC, my digital loco there going around, and I've also got my analog train going around. Two different systems, but they're both being used. Absolutely marvellous. Hey up. That's a bit of a dodgy one, isn't it? Hang on, let's get back. But... oh, but it's come off the... oh, no, we're alright. Get back. But... I certainly wouldn't be running DC and DCC on one transformer. I wouldn't do it. There we are, look. That's better. Because if I can just grab a bit more of your time, I'm going to run through my system. Because I've got it all out tonight, specifically because I want to know that you know what you're doing. My station lights, which is one of the problems I've got. All my station lights, I know there's a bulb out over there, and we got station platform lights over there. All of those, I did the mistake of buying 6-volt bulbs. When I was doing trains many years ago, you only had 12-volt bulbs. So I, like a silly sod, didn't look at the I didn't look at the voltage, did I? I just went and bought some. And I got them home, plugged them in, and what do you think happened? It just went pop, and that was the end of that. So I looked into it. You can buy capacitors or resistors or whatever you want to call them to drop the voltage from 12 volt down to 6 volt on your platforms. But I don't know much about these capacitors and everything. I'm not clued up in that department. So what I've done, I've got tonight one track running on DC, which is that one. And I've got track 2, which is my Class 25 BR locomotive running on DC. I've got tonight, I've got house wires there for the houses. I've got my points running into there. And I've got here is track 2 running into there. Okay, so just to make sure I've got this right, I've got lights there, sorry. I've got points there, and I've got my locomotive running on that one, okay. But down here, oh God, it's no good being overweight, I'm telling you. I've got another transformer plugged in, and I've got it running my station lights, because if I turn these down, Sharon just shows you them, see that? So although I've got 6-volt station lights, all I do is plug them into that transformer, turn it halfway down or halfway up, whichever you want to put it, and Bob's your uncle. They work. They're LEDs. No, they're not. They're normal bulbs. I thought there was LEDs, but no, they're normal bulbs. So it don't matter which way you put them, because with LEDs you can only have the current going through one side of the bulb. Because there's 2 wires, isn't it? On the analog bulbs, which are these, you can have live going through either one and it still work. With these LEDs, which is the modern lights, you can only have the the power, the live going into one side. Otherwise it won't work if you turn it over. So, going back to it, we've got our transformer there for our station lights, which just gets dropped down there. We've got our Amet Morgan running track 2, which is the Class 25 BR loco. And I've got my points running off that, I've got my houses running off that, and everything else. And then I've got my other track running on my DCC transformer. And it should work. I know I've got wires falling out, it's because I haven't put them in properly. But, and plus when you've looked at that camera light, you can't see properly, my eyesight's gone. I've gone cockeyed and I can't see a finger, but I will get it in a minute. That'll do for now. But it's working, so that's alright. But I would seriously consider one or the other. If you want to run both, you've got to have 2 controllers, one DC and another DCC, wired up to one track for each. So you got one track for DC and one track for DCC. If you want to run the analog system on the points, you've got to run it on the old DC system, unless you buy the circuit board. It's a little circuit board to what I've been told, and then you can do away with the lever switch and you can operate it all via that. Your points, your traffic lights, the lot can be operated via this apparently. But I'm hoping this is out. I know it's a bit complicated, especially with all these wires every direction, but the main thing is, like I keep saying to everybody, you've got to have fun. If you've got sentimental locomotives and you're not sure what you're doing, don't use them till you know what you're doing. But if that digital loco packed up tomorrow, I'd just go and replace it. But not a lot of people can. This is my point. And I don't want you, getting one of these and then putting it into a DC locomotive and it burn the locomotive out. Likewise, I don't want you running the analog system through the DC transformer or controller, whatever you want to call it. I call them transformers. I don't want you running the analog system into the DCC transformer and it burn your transformer out, your controller out, because it's not cheap. DCC is not cheap. And for the few that can afford it, more power to you. But there's a lot of people that that's going to have to save and save and save for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then some silly sod says where you can run analog bloody points, through that, and then you go and blow the transformer up. You're not going to be very happy, are you? So what I'm going to just advise you is, if you're running the lever switch because you want to run DC, like I'm doing, as well as DCC, you run the lever switch and the points, the traffic lights, through your DC transformer. You run your, if you want to run your house lights through this, that's fine, and your cars, because it's not going to short the system out. But this shorts the system out, so don't run it through that. Run it through your DC transformer. They're a bit more tougher, because this keeps resetting when I run the analog system through that. So please, please, please make sure you check with your Hornby or your Bachmann suppliers before you go and buy a new controller, hoping to run DCC and DC through it, because I would be very, very careful if you've got trains that your late parents have bought you, or say an ex-partner that's passed away has bought you or something, because you cannot replace them trains. This is the point. I'm going to worry. I'm worry sick about making sure that I've got this perfectly clear, because I don't want any mistakes. But I hope this has helped. I really do. So, quick overview. Analog system goes through your analog transformer to the one track, and your points and everything else can run through that, and you have that purely for DCC locomotives like I've got it. So I've got track 1 with the rail freight class 47 on DCC, and I've got track 2 with the class 25, the BR loco, through that transformer. I can't stress it enough. I know I'm repeating myself here, but don't run DCC and DC through just this transformer, because it'll burn the motors out on the DC locos. Make sure, if you're going to get one transformer to do both, you speak to your supplier, because they'll know best. But I do really hope this has helped. If you've got any other questions or queries, you know, you can email me, Ian here and there, and that's one word, at gmail.com, or you can get on the comments box below and I'll get back to you. But I think I'm going to have a mess about with the train for a bit now, so enjoy the rest of your evening. I do truly hope that this has answered all the questions. So you can run DCC and DC together. You've just got to have 2 transformers, one for each track, okay? And I'll try and get another video out for the weekend. Okay, have a good evening. Bye for now.